Welcome back. We are less than a month away now from the closely watched Democratic primary in New York's 12th district to fill retiring Congressman Jerry Nadler's seat. The race has attracted a crowd of candidates, including 2 New York Assembly members, the ex-husband of Trump's former campaign manager, Kellyanne Conway, George Conway, and Jack Schlossberg, the grandson of President John F. Kennedy. Schlossberg launched his campaign after making a name for himself online for his viral political satire videos. Here's a sampling.
Newsflash, Republicans are lying.
Hey, JG, it's me. I'm at the pump.
Dear President Putin, every child shares the same quiet dreams.
A lot of people talking about Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
We got to call them out and fight fire with fire.
And joining me now on set is Jack Schlossberg. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Well, it's wonderful to have you. We really appreciate it. Looking forward to the conversation. So many people do know you from your TikToks, of course, your family name. Why do you think you're qualified to represent New York's 12th congressional district?
I think I'm running a campaign like every Democrat across the country needs to, and that is because our base and the most dedicated members of our party do not like the influence of money in our politics. I don't have a super PAC. I don't take any corporate PAC money from special interests. And this race is being flooded with money from other parts of the country. A guy named Alex Borez, he has $5 million or more from a company called Anthropic, and also has taken $3.5 million from Chris Larson, the second highest donor to President Trump's inauguration, who is currently funding MAGA Republican candidates across the country. And they're also funding Mr. Borez. Meanwhile, Mr. Lasher, assemblyman from the Upper West Side, he has a super PAC that spends about $1 million a week. I don't have that. People right now want to trust their elected officials. I've experienced more than anybody breaking through, elevating the profile of the issues that matter most to our party. And, I've got a legal education and a lifetime of working very hard on the issues that I care about.
Well, and as you know, one of the critiques against you is about how much experience you have. Congressman Jerry Nadler is retiring. You're trying to win his seat, of course, has been dismissive of your candidacy. He says you don't have a record of public service or a public accomplishment. What would you say to that criticism?
I would say that bad staffing, wasn't briefed very well. I was a delegate to the DNC in 2024. I traveled across the country for the Biden and Harris campaigns as a top Democratic surrogate. I have spent a lifetime representing and working on extending President Kennedy's legacy and the important values that it represents across the world. I have the best education you can get on public policy matters. And I've actually, uniquely among the people running, galvanize young voters and engage them in a political process and help them believe in the Democratic Party again at a time when our future as a party and a country depends on expanding our base, being more persuasive, and galvanizing the very voters that we lost that led to us losing control of all 3 branches of government in 2024. So I would consider that public accomplishment, absolutely. And I would also say that the campaign I'm running right now is evidence of that, too. We're running a grassroots political movement here in New York as an outsider in this race. We're doing it without a super PAC, and we are releasing plans, like my plan to have people deduct their rent from their taxes. It could save you a month's worth of rent per year. I've got a plan to make Trump pay for the cost of the perimeter around Trump Tower and invest it in cops, teachers, and transit. I want to make HIV medication free at the point of care. I want to finally put a speed limit on e-bikes. E-bike accidents here in New York increased 86% last year. Meanwhile, the 2 people I'm running against missed half their votes in the same amount of time. So I understand I don't have the record and experience of making deals in Albany, but I think that's exactly why people are gravitating towards our campaign.
You're critical of your challengers for missing votes. Would you commit to attending every vote if you were elected?
I'll commit to showing up every single day for the people of this district and doing absolutely everything I can to deliver for them.
So that's a yes?
Absolutely.
Okay. Let me ask you, staying on this topic of your experience, it was highlighted in a New York Times piece, and it stressed the fact that you have said you have the longest work engagement that has been to be a few months as a political correspondent for Vogue, covering the 2024 campaign, and saying the State Department work you've cited lasted for less than 4 months. How do you explain that to people who read that and have concerns that maybe you don't have the right kind of experience?
They're free to judge for themselves. That's not true, what they wrote there, and I would have told them that.
What part of it's not true?
I worked at the State Department for just under a year, and I left after President Trump won the election. I was a political appointee, and that's how that works when you work in government at the State Department. President Trump, I don't think, was going to reappoint me to a job at the State Department. And I would just say that, look, I'm the last person who expected to go from a JD MBA to be a content creator, but that was the universe's plan for me and my way to contribute and galvanize people on my own. I would also say that it may not look like a traditional work experience to you, but I built my own media company and had tremendous success that other people, in that industry would kill for. And just because I turned down a lot of money to be paid for that content doesn't mean that it doesn't have value.
Let me allow you to respond to another part of the New York Times article, which lists what they call, quote, erratic behavior in your campaign. They cite canceled campaign meetings, firing of consultants without telling them. Is there any truth to those claims?
The story did get one thing right. There is one true thing about that, and that is that I do not have a campaign that's like other campaigns. I was not planning to run for this seat, but it opened up. I had no idea Representative Nadler would retire. This is my home. I grew up here. My family has lived here for 5 generations. I care a lot about this place. And when the seat opened up and the Democratic Party was in shambles, as it has been, I decided I had no choice but to run and to figure it out. And, people may not know this sitting at home, but most campaigns, you hire a media consultant, a fundraising consultant, a digital consultant, a compliance consultant, a mail consultant. You ended up with 10 consulting firms. I did that in the beginning because I thought, because I listened to advice, quickly realized not for me. I don't need to hire 10 different groups of people to tell me people care about affordability. I already knew that. And so I decided that wasn't for me. And I don't know, that article, it was a beauty. And if I were one of my opponents, I might have done the same thing. But I would just say that there is absolutely no truth to the idea that we're running a disorganized campaign. I show up and work every single day. If we were running a disorganized campaign, we wouldn't have held a lead in the polls for 4 months after being dismissed as unserious. We wouldn't have raised $3 million from small dollar donors, average contribution of $30. And I'll finish by saying, we wouldn't, if we were so unserious and we were so erratic, then why did we land on the front page?
All right, let's talk about your policy priorities. You want to implement universal health coverage. You want to enhance the child tax credit, as well as, you've said, abolish ICE, root out corruption in the Trump administration, which you just referenced, among a long list of other proposals. It's day one if you get elected. What is the first policy proposal that you focus on?
If New Yorkers could deduct their rent from their taxes, rent's at an all-time high, I'd be very happy. But I will say that I think the fundamental impediment to a progressive agenda is money in politics. It is campaign finance reform. If we don't discontinue the trend that we're on, where billionaires can come in and buy elections, where corporations like Anthropic can try to buy New York 12, this is, a lot of people want to buy the middle of the center of Manhattan. There's a big market out there for billionaires to come in and spend money on it, as evidenced by the spending in this race. And it has a corrupting influence in our party. I like to say, I'm on a regular bike. My opponents are on an e-bike because they've got a super PAC. We've got to ride 100 miles. By the time we get there, who's going to be in better shape? Because when you get to the floor of the House, you can't bring your super PAC with you.
It's interesting because Mayor Mamdani has tried to work with President Trump in some areas. If you were elected, would you try to find ways to work with President Trump? Do you see that as a priority if you thought it would benefit the people of New York and your district?
Absolutely. Of course I would. I would also say that I believe the Democratic Party, and this is something that distinguishes me again from my opponents, I do believe we have to hold the president and his administration accountable for the crimes they've committed, and that impeachment has to be on the table for the Democratic Party right now. I can think of nothing more demoralizing than watching the law be broken in broad daylight, getting to Congress, winning a majority, and not actually doing anything about it, which is why I would want to serve on the Judiciary Committee, because I want to issue a subpoena to find out what is going on with my cousin RFK Jr., why Tylenol, why not Advil, who's paying for the words that come out of his mouth, and how much money have all of these cabinet officials made.
What do you say to Democrats who argue impeachment would only backfire? It would only strengthen President Trump more politically speaking.
I would say we don't have a choice. What's the alternative? It might be difficult. It might come at a cost, but isn't that what we're supposed to be doing as public servants? Is the thing that we believe is the right thing to do. I think it's the right thing to do to say, no, a president can't make $4 billion in his first year and a half in office. That's not okay. We have to hold him to account.
All right, let me ask you about an article that came out today about your views related to Israel. This is in Politico, highlighting what they say is your shifting views on military aid to Israel. They quote you as saying at a recent meet and greet at a private club, quote, I probably would have continued funding Israel's offensive weaponry within the years following October 7th, but you've publicly said you would vote to withhold any offensive weapons to Israel. How do you square those two statements? Which one reflects how you really feel right now?
I mean, I'm not on here to complain about my media coverage, but that story is completely false and taken out of context. And I think it's really important to call a spade a spade. I said the same thing in that room, and the transcript that they have would show it if they had published it, that I say in every single room. That is, my position has evolved just as AOC and Bernie's has evolved after the war in Iran. When the war in Iran broke out, I said I oppose the war. I oppose all funding for the war. That means opposing sending weapons to Israel. I support, however, continued funding for the Iron Dome, because it is primarily a mechanism to defend civilian lives, including the 600,000 Americans who live there. And that's exactly what I said in that room. And the comment that I made that about supporting Israel's efforts in the years following October 7th is something that every Democrat said, or many Democrats said, the majority position in our party, and the situation has fundamentally changed. I was asked a hypothetical question about in the year following October 7th, would you have supported funding Israel's military campaign? And I said yes, because the situation has changed since then, and there's nothing inconsistent about that.
So just to be very clear, you oppose military aid to Israel right now?
Yes, as I have said multiple times on the record, at forums, on my social media channels, in interviews to the press. I have absolutely thought a lot about it. And just so people wonder, it hasn't, I've managed to make, I'm right in the sweet spot where I've made everybody angry. So I'm not doing it just to please anybody.
My colleague had the opportunity to speak with Mayor Mamdani, asked him if he would endorse anyone in the race. He declined to do that. He said he's a voter in this race. How do you feel about that? Do you want Mayor Mamdani's endorsement? Is that important for you to secure?
I want the mayor to do whatever he thinks is the best thing for him and the city to succeed. I want to be a great partner for the mayor if elected. I supported the mayor. I'm the only person running who voted for him 2 times. And I would say that our policy positions compared to the field I'm running against are much closer together, though we don't agree on every issue. I am definitely much more in line with his views than my opponents. So I think he should do what he thinks is the right thing to do. Maybe that's endorse me, maybe that's someone else, maybe that's stay out, and I respect his decision.
Just finally, you are running this campaign against the backdrop of an unbelievable family tragedy. You have lost your sister, and my condolences, and the condolences on behalf of everyone here to you and your family. A lot of people would have said, I'm not going to continue with this race, and yet you have. What has kept you going while you're still grieving?
This is our country's 250th birthday. New York's turning 400 years old this year, and it's never been more clear to me that no day is guaranteed, and we don't have time right now as people who care about our country and the future of it and our party to sit back on the sidelines and watch it all burn. And I'd be lying to you if I said that President Kennedy's legacy and of, his White House draft the Civil Rights Act. He sent a man to the moon. He solved the Cuban Missile Crisis without firing a shot. He supported the arts, and President Trump is dismantling that legacy that he and generations of Americans built so that we could live in this country. He's dismantling that, and I'm not just going to sit by and watch and let it happen.
All right, Jack Schlossberg, thank you so very much for being here. Good luck to you on the campaign trail. We will be tracking it. Really appreciate it.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.